Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stronger Everyday podcast. Today we have Su Hobson with us from the UK, actually. Well, Sue, introduce.
Yeah, hi, I'm a longevity coach. So I've been in kind of the fitness, nutrition, longevity space. It's kind of evolved over time, but for about 12 years. And I work exclusively with midlife women, helping them to live better for longer.
Oh, that's amazing. So midlife women, you're talking about like moms and professionals who have been
Well,
get.
kind of anyone that falls into that, it's usually kind of 40 plus, up to, I guess it's
Okay.
kind of perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal women.
Okay. No, that's amazing because that's a whole segment of society that kind of gets forgotten when it comes to fitness and being in shape, right? And it's an element of society that, like fitness just doesn't stop just because you hit a certain age. You need to keep
Uh-huh.
going. And it's one of the reasons I reached out to you too, because I saw what you were doing and the concept of getting fitness to kind of follow you through life, regardless of anything, is something that's so tantamount and so important to fitness in general
Uh-huh.
that people forget. They look at fitness influencers online, they look at social media and stuff like that, and they tend to be 20-year-olds, maybe 30-year-olds, sometimes 40-year-olds like myself.
Uh-huh.
But there's such a huge swath of the population that gets forgotten, but they need fitness and health just as much, if not more, than everyone else. So
Uh-huh.
it's so important with you. And I love the fact that I'm actually getting the chance to talk with you about this today. So yeah, so without further ado, I'm just gonna jump right into it.
Okay.
So your personal story and foundation, right? So can you share your personal journey with our listeners? Like what led you into the health and longevity coaching and why specifically, I know we covered it a little bit just what I
Yeah.
said, but like why specifically like midlife women?
Purely because that's where I'm at and that's where I feel like I know what I'm talking about and that I try and
Okay.
stay in my lane very much. So for me, I did what a lot of women my age did in my younger years. I did all the wrong stuff. I starved myself. I punished myself. I had 2 years on the Atkins diet, which you'll only know what that is if you're our age because it's now kind of I guess keto's the closest version of it.
Yeah.
Just, I was skinny, I had disordered eating, and then I went the other way, got quite heavy, stopped caring about myself. I was also busy having two children and moving countries, so I was kind of the bottom of the priority list. So, I tell this story a lot. I was 41 years old, I'd had both my children, and I thought, oh my God, if I feel like this now, what am I going to feel like when I'm 50? That, if I'd passed my peak and I'm now going to start going like that is scary. I'm 41. So I said, that's it. I've got to do something about it. I set this ridiculous goal at the time of I'm going to turn 50 looking and feeling better than I've ever felt before. And I know me, I knew I'd have to get quite obsessive about it. And I said, the only way I'll do that is if I make it my job. And that's what I
Okay.
did. So I retrained immediately and I started that long journey.
Oh, that's amazing. Where are you coming from by way from like prior to fitness?
Well, corporate background for years. And then I'd met my husband and had the children and we became expats overseas. So prior to starting that career change, I hadn't been working. I'd been, like I say, settling us into a new country, bringing up, young children, giving birth. So it was a whole new career.
Okay, okay. No, that's amazing. And I kind of, except for the not being a woman thing, I kind of understand where you're coming from. Went to marketing and I got into fitness specifically kind of along the same things as you. Like I'm a type 1 diabetic and I was diagnosed with MS, right? So for me, fitness kind of reinvented my life, kind of along the same lines as what you're describing,
Mhm.
right? Like it's such a transformative aspect to life that anyone can introduce. So then looking back, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in your own health journey, especially like you said, you were expats and stuff like that, and you've moved a lot with the two children and everything. Like, so how did, well, all those or whatever else, like other health issues might have come up, how did that shape your philosophy today, especially when it comes to fitness?
Well, I've got to say, when I set that goal at 41 and said it would be my job, how I felt then and what I thought mattered um, has evolved so much in the past 12 years. So it's been, a complete. Back then, when I started, I thought, right, I just have to get really, really cardio fit. And I was doing lots of HIIT. I was watching what I ate for the first time in ages. It wasn't till I was 45, 46 till I discovered strength training. And then that completely turned everything on its head. And that's when it really got successful.
Okay.
So, everything's evolved, and it's evolved again just in the past few years since I've turned 50, starting to focus more on longevity and realizing how important that is. So I'm never in one place. I think that as you go through life as a coach, you should be learning and continuing to evolve. And I see 30-year-old coaches now saying things that I want to shout at them for, but I'm also thinking in the back of my mind, wait till you're 40 plus 50, you'll be
Yeah.
talking about this because you only actually do what's important to you at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay, no, that's brilliant because it does kind of fitness is one of those things, and I agree with you. Like it's changed over time. Like I remember when I was younger and I first got into it, I was much more focused on, and this is very much like a male dominated aspect that I'm talking about right now, like just strength, wanting to get bigger muscles, having more like that kind of aspect of things, right?
yeah.
Versus now, yeah, don't get me wrong, I still love pushing heavy, but it's more about being able to do it for longer, being able to keep my what's the word? Okay, I normally can speak better than
Mobility,
this.
flexibility.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mobility, flexibility, endurance, like just
yeah,
to
yeah,
kind of be able to last longer, you know? So then, and this actually ties into the next question when it comes to like defining longevity when it comes to midlife health, right? So
yeah.
longevity is often misunderstood by people, right? They don't have a good understanding of what it takes, not just from the fitness perspective, but what they need to keep their bodies running for longer. So how do you define it beside beyond just living longer, like, especially with your experience? Like how do you approach it?
And it isn't living for longer really, because we are living longer. That is happening, but unfortunately, we're living worse.
Yeah.
So, we're living more years in worse health. That is the way the world is going. So,
Hmm.
longevity is living better, living healthier for as long as possible. People tend to get to midlife and this starts to happen and they have a slow decline. They pick up chronic diseases, they get less active, less fit. If you are actively trying to live your life to live better for longer, you kind of keep that up there, hopefully to your 80s, 90s, maybe if you're lucky to 100 and then drop off a cliff. But
Yeah.
that's great. That's how I want to live. That's how I want to help other women live. And it is your exercise and it is your nutrition, but it's so much more than that. It's your sleep, how you manage stress, social
Hormones.
connection. People
Yeah,
do actually die of loneliness. So there's a lot of pillars to longevity that's don't get me wrong, it's nutrition give you the biggest bang for your buck. You've got to get those nailed, but you also need to, like I said, look at your sleep, your stress, your mindset, social connection, etc.
for sure, for sure. So, given everything you've experienced, especially with the women you've trained, what are some of the most common myths you see about midlife health, especially for the women you train? Like, is there like a thing in particular that a lot of people stick to that they think they know, but it's actually what they know is wrong? Or like, what have you come across when it comes to those myths?
The biggest thing that has me smacking my head against the wall most days is what we used to do when we were younger, we could get away with, and it doesn't work anymore. And when I hear coaches say, not as, and no offense, but they're usually male coaches, but younger as well. No, it's exactly the same for men and women. It's exactly the same when you get older. No, it isn't. No, it absolutely isn't. Different things take priority. Our hormones are shifting. Everything changes. And unfortunately, women my age have been brought up in the mindset of diet, calorie restriction, and punishing exercise to burn calories. And if they continue to do that, that's not going to be good for their health and longevity. They need to
Yeah.
flip it on its head. And often they want to, but it's so ingrained that they can't. So that's what I'm kind of dealing with.
Okay. No, I'm actually so happy you said that because, yeah, like to a certain degree, when it comes to fitness, cardio, weightlifting, yeah, those are blanket terms you could say that everyone needs. When it comes to the specifics of how to approach it, whether you're a woman or a man, depending on your age too, like the way I approach fitness now as a guy is
Mm.
completely different to how I approached it when I was in my 20s or when I was in my late teens, you know? And not a woman myself, obviously. I can't because of their you guys have so much like so many more hormones, so many more things to deal with as on a life basis. I can only imagine how much more impactful it can be if you do things wrong. And also, yes, if you do things right also, but I mean to get into that mindset as you mentioned to be able to do things right.
And it's more about not overdoing it. I often meet a client. Let's say a client comes to me, and this is a typical client, and they think they're doing everything right, and they can't understand why they're putting on weight at this age and not losing it, and why they feel terrible. And then they tell me, "Oh, but I only eat like 1,000 calories a day. Well, there's number one.
Yeah.
And I'm in the gym every single day, and I'm doing these like 45-minute hit sessions every day, or I'm running on the treadmill every day. And I'm like, and number two,
Yeah.
you are exhausted. You're not fueling your body. You are completely burning yourself out, and you're so stressed that this is the opposite of what we want. So I need you to train less, pick up some weights and train smarter. I need you to
Yeah.
eat more, and that really freaks them out. You
Yeah.
need to eat more protein, more fiber. You need to nourish yourself, stop cutting out food groups, and you need to sleep and recover.
Yeah. 100%. Because one of the things I realized when I was doing research on like just fitness in general is that when we train, cortisol gets released, right? And I've talked about this a few times in blogs and different interviews I've done, but cortisol is the stress hormone, right? And like, yes, in short bursts, it's great. But if you train like that every day and you have a consistent going of cortisol, not only is your sugar be spiking all the time
Yeah.
from a diabetic perspective,
Yeah.
that's really bad. But it also doesn't allow your body to recuperate and use everything you've done by way of the fitness aspect and nutrition aspect to kind of fuel and build yourself up, So
Mhm.
you absolutely need to rest. I love that about your message. It's incredible. Now, kind of following that line about, the strength, lifestyle, and confidence and stuff like that, why do you think strength training is such a critical part of longevity? And how do you make it approachable for women who can be intimidated, right? Because as I mentioned, fitness tends to be not necessarily as male dominant as it used to be, but it's still very much a bro culture, so to speak, right? So how do you approach women who are in that kind of intimidation side of things where they still need to get that longevity going?
Yeah, it is getting better. I see it, in commercial gyms. There are definitely more women my age in the weight section, and that is amazing. But there's a lot of women still don't realize, for me, it is number one over everything for longevity. So muscle, in my opinion, is the organ of longevity over everything else. We are losing muscle. Muscle is the reason why you get frail when you get older. Muscle is the reason you can't get up the stairs, you can't get off your seat, you're falling and you're breaking your bones. If you can build muscle and not only retain it, but build it as you get older, get more muscle, you are setting yourself up for, unless you're unfortunate and something, happens to you out of your control,
Yeah.
a long and healthy life. So it's critical. And then women say to me, but I don't like strength training. Okay, well, I'll help you. I'm not asking you to do nothing else. I'm not asking you to not do what you enjoy exercise wise, but please try and build in 2 to 3 strength training sessions a week. You do not need a gym. You don't need to leave your house. So one of the things I'm really focused on at the moment is I'm building strength training programs for women that just use dumbbells. They can do
Okay.
it at home in 30 minutes with a pair of dumbbells. And that
Okay.
is my way of convincing them that, you don't need to worry about gym anxiety, going in the weight section with the guys, but please do wait.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think one of the big misconceptions, like I was talking to a few of my friends and they have this concept that they think that as soon as women I'm speaking of specifically, as soon as they pick up a dumbbell or a barbell or anything, they think they're going to turn into a man. They think they're going to, and I'm kind of like, I don't know where that concept came from, but no. like
Yeah,
testosterone, like just that alone is such a differentiating factor that it's not going to happen unless you do jump on steroids or anything like that. And have you, and this isn't a question, but that I said, but like, have you found it difficult to kind of break through that understanding of
yeah,
fitness for women? Really?
I get that a lot. So I've had people say to me, I want to build muscle. I know it's important, but not quite so much as you. I don't like that look. And I just want to say that's fine, by the way, you
Yeah.
know. But do you realize what I do to look like this? Do you what I really want to say, and
Yeah.
often the clients, and I word it very politely, is you don't just pick up a dumbbell 3 times a week and look like this. I've been doing this a long time. I've
Yeah.
actively sought to build my muscles. It takes
Hmm.
so much work. You're not going to accidentally
Yeah.
get big, you know.
Yeah.
And also you'll be building, if you kind of do it right and you're eating right, you're building lean muscle, not big bulky muscles.
Yeah.
So yeah, I face that all the time, countless
Okay.
times.
And so what's the biggest trick you've used to kind of get around that, to convince women that no, effectively, this is going to sound harsh, but like, no, you're wrong. This is how it actually is. Like, how do you step around that and get them to actually realize that what you're saying is accurate?
Just building trust and letting them know how many times women I've worked with over the years, hundreds
Okay.
and hundreds of women, and showing them clients that I've worked with and how they look and make it, realizing that they're not bulky. And a lot of them are just that they're scared, but they're willing to try.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just that is a myth that needs to be buried once and for all.
Yeah.
Same with creatine. When I encourage clients to take creatine, and that a lot won't because they're worried they're going to get bulky taking creatine as well because it's seen as a gym bro
Yeah.
supplement, which, you know, I think that's moved on as well. There's so much benefits from it. So
Oh, for sure. Like, and it's not just physically too. Creatine has been proven that it actually might have more benefits cognitively than
yeah,
it does for your muscles. What it does for your muscles is it effectively lets them store more glycogen. It You're storing more energy in your muscles effectively, right? So that's pretty much it. So you can move it, you can move more, but it's it's not a it's not a either from a woman's perspective turn into a man or from a guy's perspective turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger thing. You know,
yeah, yeah,
it's a it's actually just a valid supplement to take that actually benefits you across the board.
yeah.
So when it comes to like this is more specifically from your experience, right? So what's one lifestyle change that gives people the biggest bang for their buck? I know you mentioned fitness, but is there like a particular aspect of fitness? Like what do you think people should kind of touch on first when it comes to get the best results when it comes to incorporating a healthy lifestyle into their current lifestyle?
It has to be strength training, number one. That is going to give you consistent strength training at least. I try to encourage them at least 3 times a week. And then I'd say a close second to that is eating more protein. And I'd say nearly every client I've worked with, when they've come to me, when I get them to just look at their food for a short period so I get an idea of what they're eating, they're not hitting even close to the amount of protein that they should be eating. So for many, it's kind of doubling it, tripling it. So those are the two that, in my opinion, give you the biggest bang for your buck.
Okay. And I know as far as protein intake, it's usually like the science tends to say like point 0.8, zero point 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight, lean body mass, right? But from how when you approach it, I know my take on it is generally, well, I train a lot more often, so I usually take between 1 to 1.2, maybe 1.5 grams of per pound, right? But what's your approach to coaching women with that? Like what's like out of what you've seen, what's the best, I guess, protein ratio for how you've seen things?
So I'm going to be awkward here because I only work in kilograms, not in grams,
Okay,
not
okay.
pounds. But
Kilograms is fine. Yeah.
yeah, so I think the national guidelines in this country is something ridiculous like zero point 0.4 or zero point 0.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which is way,
Okay.
way below. I'd be
Yeah.
reckon anyone that's consistently strength training, 3 times a week, I'd get them to try and get to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. But I also caveat that I don't expect you to get there straight away. For many, it's a huge dietary change. So I set them that target. Let's work towards it. And I'll help you constantly by looking at what you're eating and giving you kind of ideas and food swaps, and we'll just work towards it over the weeks. I personally eat 2 grams of protein per kilogram body weight, actually a bit more, but then I am training a lot and I've been doing it a long
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah. No, well, that actually tracks because that's roughly about 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound as well for not the Canadian audience that's listening, but for the United States audience that's listening. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So like right there, we align on how like the grams of proteins of that. So I mean, the fact that you're actually saying this and the fact that it's from based on your experience too is it's proof that like the expression the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, right? So I mean, it's there, it works,
Mhm.
right? And the fact that you're
Yep.
living it and okay, here, this is a question that I didn't ask, but compared to how you were before when you were younger, when you're doing the cardio, those like the what people do when they're younger, compared to now, especially with your strength increases and stuff like that, how would you say your standard of living has increased based on your old mindset compared to your new mindset?
So how my mindset has changed, or it's kind of
No, but
everything's changed, to be honest.
yeah, but not how your mindset has changed, but how that change in mindset has affected your body. Like how well do you
Right.
feel now compared to how you felt back then?
Just like a whole different person. Honestly, like a completely different person. I used to, my life was very much, I was a massive sugar addict. I binged on sugar. I drank an awful lot. I didn't prioritize my sleep. So I was constantly kind of doing that throughout the day, very moody, very negative, lack of energy. And I'd either be one or the other, like, going at it in the gym and then crashing later in the day. And I struggle to get across how amazing I feel at this age compared to when I was 20, 30. I'm
Yeah.
50 and it affects everything. My lifestyle is cleaner, I sleep better, my moods are better, I have a more positive mindset because of it. All of it, I think about kind of happier things so much more, it all feeds into each other, and that's the other thing I try to tell my clients. The minute, you get the exercise nailed, you get the nutrition nailed, and then it's a virtuous circle. You start to want to prioritize your sleep, you want to eat better, and also I gave up alcohol, which was the cherry on the top of everything for me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're from the UK, I'm assuming, right? So like based on the accent and stuff like that. I have an Irish background, so I understand the whole alcohol thing. But it, it's funny because even alcohol, people don't realize that you drink a beer, you drink whiskey, which is my alcohol of choice generally. You're drinking bread effectively. You're drinking sugar, right? Like so, and people don't equate it because all they think about, like the negative aspect of alcohol, is the alcohol content, not the nutritional aspect behind it too, which affects everything as well. Like for example, sugar alcohols, like these are all a type of carbohydrate, right? And people don't understand that on the surface for what it may be. Yeah, you might get a little bit drunk, you might have a little bit of fun, might loosen your inhibitions and stuff like that. But there's so much more to it than just those tertiary kind of results, And unfortunately, the way our society has formed is that those tertiary results have taken up the whole aspect of what alcoholic is without looking at the health aspects that it has when it comes to sugar, calories,
Yeah.
and what it does to your overall body in general, So then, you often talk like, especially when it comes to fitness specifically, right? When you talk about confidence when it comes to fitness, how do strength and lifestyle changes translate into empowerment outside of the gym? And I know this is so important for women specifically because men tend to be cocky and arrogant when they go into the gym anyway. So that kind of carries through. But women specifically, when it comes to that emotional standpoint, when it comes to that mental standpoint, like the fact that you now are so much stronger than how you used to be and stuff like that, like that's got to have a huge effect on how you present yourself, on how you
Yeah.
go about your day-to-day activities, right? So could you discuss that a little bit, like for our viewers, like how has that benefited you?
Yeah, it's I think one way to look at it is how you feel when you're kind of doing the opposite. So, many women are focused on losing weight, getting smaller, and often in drastic ways, short periods of time. And that is such a vicious circle
Hmm.
because you never maintain it. And so you're constantly going around this cycle, which is really bad for your confidence. I know so many women that have bigger clothes and smaller clothes for when they lose the weight and then they put it back on. They're not going to, that's not confidence that's going to carry you through life. It's actually a very sad kind of vicious cycle. When you know that you're doing things to protect your health and you're building your health and you can see muscle developing on your body, it's a whole different thing. No, it's not about getting thinner, weighing less, or you'd stop weighing yourself. But you'd be able to carry, in our house, for example, I've got two teenage sons, but they know that I'm the one that will get the top off the jar or, whatever. That makes you feel really good. And especially when they're learning from you and following
Yeah.
in your footsteps. So it's everything. It's just you feel healthier, you look healthier. Being strong for a woman is one of the best feelings,
Yeah.
rather than skinny. Strong is an amazing
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And what you said stood out to me when you said, like, when it comes to weighing yourself on a scale, I don't know how many times I have to tell people this, but the number that's written on a scale is meaningless because, like, I weigh now, I'm almost the medium as far as the size of my clothing and stuff like that. So I've actually gone down in size technically, but
Mm.
I weigh more than I did last year because of the muscle I put on, right? So I'm just under 200 pounds at this point, and I'm much smaller than when I was at like 210, 220, despite the fact that the weight differential is not that much because muscle weighs so much heavier than fat. And also, this is both for male and women, it actually makes you look a lot better too, despite having that higher number on the scale?
Yeah, and that's again, it's just it's the mindset that we've been brought up with. It's people look at me and they go, yeah, but look at you, you're tiny. Yes, my dress size has dropped, but it's pure muscle. It's
Yeah,
muscle. Okay. So
yeah,
yes, when you build more, this is the other thing to try and get across to women. The more muscle you build, the leaner and smaller you get, not by dieting and trying to get skinnier, but by building muscle. It replaces the fat. But I weigh a lot. When I tell women what I weigh, they're shocked. When I tell them what I eat, they're shocked. They're like, "Oh, you must hardly eat. Are you joking?" I eat loads and I weigh
yeah,
more than I look. So it's
yeah.
just trying to get that across to people that, chuck away the flipping scale.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And that I will stand behind you 1,000% when you say that. Now, this kind of translates to what we're talking about, how it affects your mood and your hormones and stuff, right? So, like, hormones shift a lot, especially in midlife, right? I know for myself, for example, like, I've always had testosterone issues. So recently, I'm kind of dealing with it now and kind of addressing the issue. But as I've aged, my testosterone is actually very, very low. It's still within the normal range, which is
Yeah.
for some reason incredibly huge. I'm trying to get it back up to like the 600, perhaps 800 nanograms per deciliter. Right now, I'm at the 180s. When it comes to that, like, especially when it comes to women, because I know nothing like besides the standard kind of what males know about women's
Yeah.
hormones, right?
Yeah.
What are some practical strategies you can offer to women to use when it comes to manage these changes as you guys are getting older and stuff like that? Like, do you have any concrete kind of like not just evidence or no, not necessarily evidence, but like hands-on things that they can use to help mitigate any changes or what they can do?
Well, only to, with regards that what we've already talked about with you really have to watch what you need to eat better. That makes a big difference to how you're feeling. And you need to be making sure you're getting all those nutrients in, all three macros, all the good stuff, make sure you're getting at least 25 grams of fiber a day. All of that helps.
Okay.
Prioritizing your sleep, and managing your stress, all of that helps. And obviously exercising and moving more, all of that helps. And then on top of it, and I know every woman has a different opinion about this and they all have a choice, and that's absolutely fine. Some women want to go through the menopause naturally. Great. If you're doing all the things that I've just talked about, that's all really going to help you. Uh, but I absolutely recommend for anyone who wants to take HRT, then you get on HRT because it is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. That's one thing I've realized because when you look at hormones, not just for males and females, but like both genders, as you age, your hormones drop off, right? And because we're living so much longer, we're expected to work so much longer, keep the same not habits, but keep the same pace of life to a much longer degrees. Our hormones are not designed for that. Our hormones don't keep up with that. So as we get older, especially through midlife, like these 50s, 60s, etc., our bodies drop off, especially since, the average lifespan for a human like a few hundred years ago was 30, and now we're living to the hundreds.
Yeah.
That kind of thing needs to be adjusted for. And I like the fact that you said that because it's something that when it comes to hormonal balances and stuff like that, yeah, women have access to the pill, they have access to different things when it comes to birth aspects of things, but not their own internal health to keep them optimal. You know what I mean? And so you mentioned HRT. Have you started taking HRT as well,
Yeah,
or?
I've been on HRT since 2021.
Okay.
Originally estrogen and progesterone, which is obviously in the UK quite easily given to all women without much fuss. And then there's testosterone, which is still very dependent on your doctor, your clinic. But I'm also on testosterone and have been now for 2 years. And was
Okay.
that was the missing piece of the jigsaw for me.
Okay.
And I will do anything to make sure that I don't come off it.
For sure, for sure. And stop me if this is too personal, but do you mind if I ask you what your dosage is? Because I know like currently I'm taking 100 or 200. I'm taking like 180, I think, twice a week in my injections.
I'm
If
trying to
I'm not
look on my thing.
okay,
But the thing is, in the UK, I don't know what it's like in the US.
Canada.
Sorry, Canada. Sorry, David, it's Canada. Um, it's not at the moment in the UK. Women are still taking men's testosterone at a smaller dose.
Okay.
Hopefully, I think it's meant to be this year or next year. We should be making it licensed for female testosterone.
Okay.
So at the moment, I kind of have I actually don't know. I'm not looking at it now, but I
Okay.
have I
Okay.
pump it 3 times a week.
Okay. Okay.
But
Is it, it's
without
it's
me looking
testo
at my prescription, I don't know what dose it is.
okay.
But
Well,
I played with it and got it
okay.
to, the right dose.
For sure, for sure. So then are you taking testosterone enanthate then?
In what, sorry?
Is enanthate, or is that the test you're taking, or is it like cypriate, or like what kind are you taking? Would you happen to know?
I'm not doing very well at finding what I'm trying to look for in here. So
Well,
I take,
these are last minute questions, right? So like
yeah,
no problem at all.
I take Tostrin 2% gel. That's all I know.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, so you take a gel, you don't take an
Yeah, yeah.
injection.
No, no, no. It's
Okay,
a
okay,
gel that
okay,
I just apply onto my inner
okay.
arms. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that's something else a lot of people don't realize, that you don't have to inject it. Like I take it by injection simply because, well, I'm a diabetic. I take needles anyway, so it doesn't bother me.
yeah,
Uh, and truth be told, I did take injections because I looked up the research on it, and the cream versus the injections. Injection does have the more you do develop muscle a lot more, and the way people when they take steroids, right? And
yeah.
because I am vain, I did choose that route. But but yeah,
We
but
I don't think we have in the UK. It's hard
okay.
enough to get testosterone. I think the only options you have
Mhm.
are gel for women right now,
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay,
unless
do
you
you ever
go
think
off license and do
yeah,
your own
yeah.
thing.
Do you think you would ever stick with gel, or would you ever go to injections, or
As long as whatever works.
that's
I don't care
fair.
how I take it, as long as I keep
Okay.
feeling the effects of it.
Okay, that's amazing. And overall it's been great, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So another aspect that kind of conflates with the whole aging aspect and how hormones get affected, especially when it comes to stress, right? As part of modern life, right? What's your top tool or practice for building stress resilience? Like I know there's weightlifting, I know there's that, but like, is there anything beyond that, or that you use incorporated with the weightlifting? Like, how do you? Well, like I'm assuming you use weightlifting also just to help vent and kind of, catharsis, right? But what like your being in the fitness world now, what are your main thoughts on stress and your best ways to kind of deal with it?
Nice. I think it's different for everyone. I think you've just got to find things that work for you. I have few different practices that I put throughout my day that work for me. I talk a lot to clients about it, and I give them suggestions, but it's something that works for you. So the first thing I do is my first hour in the morning is very sacrosanct. I have a little hour routine, and if I do things in that hour that I want to, my day goes a lot better. My stress is more managed. So it's really simple. I get up really early because the dogs wake me up. I step outside. I breathe some fresh air first thing in the morning. I take some deep breaths, do a little bit of breath work. I come back in, I have a light breakfast and my collagen coffee, which no one can talk to me until that's happened. And then I sit there for an hour. I do I do a gratitude thing on my phone. So just this little routine. And if I do that in the morning, my day starts better. I can manage stress better.
Okay.
At night time, I have a wind down routine before I go to bed. And again, that kind of brings my stress levels down before bed and helps me sleep better. And I guess the other thing for me is, and again, I only got dogs a year ago, and moving enough in the day. I wasn't getting outside enough. And I live in the country in the middle of woodland, and I just wasn't moving.
Okay.
Since I've got the dogs, that getting out with the dogs in nature every day is one of my biggest stress relievers. It's just so good for you.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And the stress routines you have in the morning and the evening, did those follow after you switched into the more fitness focused mindset, or have you always had that, and just kind of now that you incorporated fitness as well, all works kind of synergistically together, or like how did that come to be?
I guess without thinking about it, I've always got up before everybody else and wanted that kind of first hour of the day in silence. Like, yeah, I do have the dogs with me now, but it's at least they don't talk to me.
Yeah.
um, and but no, it's something I've worked on probably since I've turned 50. The last few years, I've just realized that I need to protect my peace. I need to protect my positive mindset. I've got very good at putting down boundaries about what works for me, what doesn't. And that's all come as part of that. I have a life I want to live, and I'm quite selfish with it. And it doesn't always happen because life happens. But,
Yeah.
the more I have these little practices in place, the more of an even keel I am.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that's selfish though. I would say that's actually like yes, from an outside perspective, if you're focusing only on yourself, people can look at it as selfish to a degree, but no, you're taking care of yourself, right? Like
Yeah,
if you're not top tier, everything else suffers, right? So, and that's another aspect that I found a lot of people are missing out when they say, I don't have time to go to the gym, I don't have time to do those good things for me and stuff like that. What I've realized is going to the gym, practicing the things of self-care and stuff like that that I have. Okay, I'm not nearly as practiced or as well done as you. When I try to do those things, my overall ability to cope to work, to do everything is so much better. And not just that, but I have more time despite taking that hour for myself or whatnot, right? It's gives you more time to do things better, to approach things in a much more, not to sound too, holistic way, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so then, and this kind of ties into it ties in tangentially to hormones and stuff like that, but because it's related more to nutrition. But we mentioned about a whole bunch of different aspects from women that can be very confusing when it comes to lifting weights, being fit, and everything like that. Nutrition is a huge aspect of that as well, because it can be so confusing because there's so many mixed messages. Like you mentioned, the Atkins diet, there's the keto thing now, so to speak, as they've changed it. There's vegetarianism, veganism, and stuff like that. And I've tried it all. I've come to a realization that the extremes in all these things, the fruitarians, everything, like, I mean, they're all wrong. And I say that concretely by all wrong because they don't, if you go to any extreme in any of these food groups, you're leaving out entire food groups that were made to digest, were made to process, were made to gather nutrients from. And yes, some of them are a little bit more plausible now because there are supplements you could take to kind of factor off
yeah,
those things you're
yeah.
missing. When it comes to those mixed messages, what's one nutrition myth, for example, that you wish women would leave behind? Like specifically women, because of the hormones, because of everything that you guys live with, changing in nutrition can have a much more dire effect on your bodies than it does on a male's body. So what are some of those things that you would wish that they would just kind of just say F off to, so to speak?
Yeah, I suppose then there's a lot. There's lots of different ones. And I think years ago it was that women were scared of fat, so they went low fat. But I think now for midlife women, there's so many that still eat either no carb or low carb. And, unless you've got a condition where you're not meant to be eating many carbs, we have three macros for a reason. Our body needs all three macros. And the trouble is people think carbs, they think sugar, they think refined carbs. But your body really needs those unrefined carbs, those good carbs, those grains and, all of that sort of stuff. And, it seems to be a bit of a go-to, oh, I want to lose weight, so I'm not going to eat carbs. And yeah, if you do keto, you'll lose weight really quickly. And I know lots of people swear by keto. Um, but my advice for midlife women is eat all your macros, eat all the good stuff. Just
Yeah.
try and obviously maximize all the good, the raw, the
Yeah.
unprocessed versions of these things.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense, especially when it comes to hormonal health, because yeah, you can go keto, you can go that, but the lack of carbohydrates, the lack of like glucose you're taking, like it is the primary energy source for our bodies, right? So if you do that, it will affect how it produces hormones in your body. It will affect how your body reacts to things. It will affect your overall health, right? So no, I so appreciate that the fact that you go from a holistic standpoint to say that, okay, you can stop eating this if you want to, but you shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's that mindset that people have to understand that like balance is key. And I know that's such a trite thing to say that it's been repeated so often and it kind of gets lost in the background these days, but balance is key. We need all of these elements to survive.
But everything's about balance. But the trouble with balance is, and the same as lots of things that I'm saying, the exercise, the whatever, it's not sexy. It's not a quick fix. It's not, that where I know men as well and women are still drawn by the quick fix and the sexy sells. And unfortunately, a lot of what I do to make, for my health, for my longevity, it's boring. But not in a bad way. It's the everyday habits that you do every day. There's nothing particularly sexy about them, but
Yeah.
that's what works.
Yeah.
And that's the trouble. People don't want to put in the work and do the unsexy habits every day. But if
Yeah.
you actually want to do this properly for long term, that's what you do.
Yeah. It's literally, it boils down to patience effectively, right? I mean, because like those quick diets of that, yeah, you might lose weight very, very quickly, but you're losing a lot of muscle too, which will affect other things also. And you're not losing the right type of weight, or you're not necessarily gaining the right type of weight, depending on what your goals are, right? And it's that, yeah, as you mentioned, it's balance. People need to understand that their bodies are that our bodies effectively were designed to eat all these things. Cutting one thing out is not the answer to, as you mentioned, longevity, right? To keep your body going
Yeah.
for as long as possible in a healthy way. So then, and this comes, I guess, this is kind of like tangential to what we're talking about, because it's regarding the ability to test things, the ability to see how things function, right? So like when it comes to age testing. Okay, so just to get back to what we were saying, so you also support women transitioning off Ozempic, right? So what are the biggest challenges you've seen with that, and how do you guide them to sustain that? Because Ozempic, like any other drug, right? You get used to it, you become dependent on it to a degree or not. It's not, it's, I don't know if you can be on it for the rest of your life, but what's your process with that when it comes to transitioning off of Ozempic?
And it's not just transitioning off. I'm working with more women now while they're on it because
Okay,
I do not have a problem with GLP-1s.
okay,
I think they're amazing and I think they've got a real place. My problem is that for the majority of people, and I've got clients that have been through this, their dose from the minute they go on is ramped up, 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 up without
okay,
really questioning it. And obviously, the bigger the dose, the quicker you're going to lose the weight. The quicker you lose the weight, the more side effects you get. You're not able to eat. You haven't got the energy to train. The more muscle you lose. It's obvious. Why do we have to keep ramping up the doses? Surely, if a person, and I'm working with two women now who are on it, so you'll start taking the dose and you'll start to feel the effects. And there's a mild appetite. You don't want to eat as much, but you can still eat, so that's what you want. And you get them to prioritize protein because that's really important. And a lot of them report more energy. So it's like, great, get in the gym, let's lift those weights because that's really important. But the trouble is, on the NHS here and when you go privately, then they want you to go up again and again and again. And before you know it, you can't eat and you can't train. Why are we not keeping people on the lowest effective dose? If they're
yeah,
feeling that effect, keep them on it. Now, what will happen is it will start to wear off. Your body will get
yeah,
used to that dose. You'll have to go up, but you can go up so much slower. Why are we wanting to lose weight in 6 weeks, 8 weeks? It's not about the GLP-1s. It's about anyone who's doing a 8 week shred program or,
yeah,
oh, I want to lose weight in 6 weeks. That is how you lose muscle. That is when it's
yeah,
damaging to your body. Just do it slower with all the right habits. And unless you build those habits, you are going to have to stay on it for life because the minute you come on, off, like the minute you come off keto, you're going to put weight back on. So
yeah,
if you do it slowly, give yourself a chance to embed strength training and eating high protein into your life and then come off, win.
yeah.
Do it the other way. You either put the weight back on or you stay on it forever.
For sure. But have you noticed that the people you work with that are on the GLP-1s, are they just given the drugs? Are they given any kind of education regarding how to sustain it, or just take this pill and that's it?
Well, the trouble is it's different wherever they've got it. I
Okay.
don't know what it's like there, but the NHS will gives it if you're over a certain BMI, but obviously it's attractive to a lot more people than that. So a lot of people who are not of the BMI to get it through the NHS are paying privately to get it, often lying because they're not actually that big.
Yeah.
So there's a whole host of issues with it. But also, I've got to say, and it's a little bit controversial maybe, but there's microdosing GLP-1s as well. And that's been taken out of context a bit here in the UK. People are seeing it as women who don't really needing it, taking a small dose to lose weight. Actually, true microdosing, like tiny, tiny amounts, is showing there's studies being done that shows it's great for longevity,
Okay, cool.
because it gets the cells to clean themselves out and,
Yeah.
regenerate. So, there's nothing, I wouldn't tell everyone to go out and start doing that because the studies are emerging, but I know a lot of people who are.
Okay.
So the GLP-1s themselves, I think, are fascinating. It's more about how much people are on and how they're being managed from the practitioner that they're getting it from.
Okay. So yeah. So then that's something I've been thinking about also when it comes to GLP-1s and drugs in general, when it comes to weight loss, muscle gain, all that kind of stuff. It's like, as long as it's done in a way that not only gives you like the drugs to get what you want done, but also the mindset, as you had mentioned before, like the mentality, the understanding and learning that goes along with it, to say like, listen, yeah, this is a drug that will help you get there, but the lifestyle that you need to change to adopt in order to kind of help optimize it, to help make it achieve the goals you want. Because as you mentioned, when you get off of them, it either all returns back to normal or you lose muscle versus fat, all this kind of stuff. Like those end results aren't what people want, but the only way they can get it using those drugs is still mindset. You need to get into the ability to say, okay, yeah, the drug helps, but I need to change my life in order
Yeah.
to facilitate the drug, you know? Um, and so when it comes to that science and stuff like that, and the drugs and technology as a whole, like, you know, we have like calorie counters, everything like that. Where do you see the future of longevity coaching heading? Like, especially when it comes to all these new sciences and technology coming in. Like you already work with people taking GLP-1. So how do you think that that's going to feed into your future as a longevity coach? And for people who want to get into the space at all, like what kind of advice would you have to say for your mentality and for people going into the space as well?
I think you've got, I spend a lot of time researching and reading stuff, and I think it's fascinating. I think there's going to be so much more. And I know some people see it as extreme, but you only need to look at Brian Johnson and the
Yeah.
longevity blueprint that he's following. Yes, there's a lot of people saying, well, as if you'd live like that. We're not meant to live like that. He's handed his body over to medical science, basically. But
Yeah.
what he's doing is really exploring some new kind of areas in longevity, which some of which will filter down to the average person.
Hmm.
There's already, he's designed this neurosim device, this electrical that sends electrical signals to your brain. I've actually bought one.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure what I think. Yeah, it's early days, but I think as a coach, you have to embrace all this stuff because you get left behind. It's like AI.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
embrace it, you use it, or you lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in terms, what I think is great about longevity is the amount of tests that you can do and how much you can look at inside your body and your blood work and all the things that are going on is developing. So we're getting more and more data at our fingertips about how our body is aging. It was just
Yeah.
first it was wearables, then biological age tests, and now there's a whole host of things that you can do. Again, Brian Johnson's doing some mad ones.
Yeah.
Fascinating, absolutely brilliant. Hopefully it will help us live better for longer.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Like, especially when it comes to Brian Johnson, I've looked up a lot of the stuff he's doing, and it's just like, at first, when I was watching this stuff, I was like, what? Like, I was honestly taken aback. I was like, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah.
That's extreme. But then I was looking at, excuse me, like the stuff he was talking about and how, regardless of how you may think he looks or what he's doing may be extreme, like that there is reasoning behind the
Yeah.
madness. Yeah. So it's really, really interesting, especially when it comes to everything it can unlock for the human body, you know? So then for those of us who are listening, because a lot of a lot of people that I talk to when it comes to getting in shape and all this shit, like, oh, it's too late for me, I'm too old, or I didn't start young enough. And like there's all these kind of things, right? So what would you say to those people who say it's too late for them to change? Like, how would you tell them it's not? Like what piece of advice would you give to those people?
There's so many people now. You just need to look on Instagram who have particularly with strength training, who have started later and later. For women in particular, you need look at Train with Joan. I don't know if you know that account, Train with Joan. She
Okay.
started strength. She was an overweight 71-year-old woman. She's now, I
Okay.
think, 79.
Hmm.
She's completely transformed her body and her
Okay.
life through strength trainings. It isn't that there is no too late.
Okay.
I've got to say, I've got she's actually just passed away, bless her. But a couple of years ago, there was a lady in the village that I live in, 96 years old, and she wanted a personal trainer because she was going to her nephew's wedding and she wanted to be able to stand up straighter and hold herself up all day. And I was like, you're 96 and
Yeah.
you're thinking about that. So yes, she has passed away now, the grand old age of 98,
Okay.
probably because of all of the things that she was doing. But it's never too late. It's never too late to increase the quality of your life.
Okay.
It's worth it, right?
Yeah, 100%. I'm so happy you said that. That's amazing. So then again, this is again tying back to our listeners and stuff like that. So if you could leave our listeners with three non-negotiables for daily health and longevity, what would it be?
Feel like I'm repeating myself here, but strength training, eat more protein, prioritize your sleep.
Okay. And specifically, I know it could be applied to both genders in this case, but are there any things, especially for your audience specifically, like for women, midlife women, is there anything particularly for that sector there a sectum of like or sector of people that might not play into the whole general concept of it? Like, what would you tell women specifically who are in that midlife range who aren't sure what to do, how to do it, think that they're falling behind, or think that it's too late for them to change?
Probably the same three things are the
Okay.
things that I'd still get them to look at, to be fair.
Okay.
But also, on top of that, just try and unlearn these things that have been drummed into us since we were, I am in the middle of that era of what we grew up with. I know it's ingrained. It's not our fault that we've grown up with this, but please try to open yourself to unlearn everything you thought was true. And at this age, to listen that things actually, if you do things differently, can completely transform your body and your mindset and your
Yeah.
longevity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's amazing, and I love that you said that. So then, um, okay, quick things. You've already answered that you're a morning person, so that's simple and done.
Yeah.
But then, coffee, tea, or neither?
Oh, coffee, 100%. And don't talk to me till I've had it.
That's fair. And what's your favorite strength exercise that you'd recommend to anyone, anytime?
So because I try and get women to, they can do this with just dumbbells. So I'm going to
Mhm,
pick a dumbbell exercise. A
sure.
dumbbell snatch and press
Okay,
is
that's a good
such
one.
a
Yeah,
good compound move. It uses so many muscles in your body that it's one of my favorite moves to put
yeah.
in there.
And that's actually a really fun one to also when you get strong enough to lift heavy with as well. It's really, really fun. So next, one book or podcast that's changed the way you think about health.
Books, she's got two books, Dr. Stacey Sims, Raw and Next Level. She's the first person that has really brought out books. Raw is why women need to train and eat differently, and Next Level is why midlife women need to train and eat differently. So they're kind of my Bibles.
Okay. No, that's awesome. And I'll put those links down below for people to also look as if you have a link for yourself to get like affiliate or whatever like that, I'll put that in as well. But and what's your personal guilty pleasure food that people might not expect from a longevity coach?
Chocolate every single day. Yeah.
I find I'm a chocoholic. As a diabetic, that sucks, but I'm a chocoholic. But I can understand with you there. So, and if you can go back and give your 20-year-old self one piece of health advice, what would it be?
Please stop drinking alcohol. Your life will be so much better without it. That is personal. I don't tell my clients to give up alcohol, but for me, I wish I'd given up years ago.
Okay. And last two questions. One thing you do every single day, no matter what, that you haven't already mentioned.
Oh, I think I've mentioned them all. I have my collagen coffee. I walk the dogs. What have I not mentioned? I do the Wordle. That's really sad, but I do the Wordle every day. And I'm
Hey,
on a really long streak right now.
that's amazing. Um, not only because I don't believe like, people don't read enough as it is, but that makes me smile more than anything else you've said. I love that you do that. The last question, in one word, what does longevity mean to you?
To be in my 80s and 90s and to be able to jump on a plane, go across the country to see my kids if they're living in a different, at the other side of the world, to be jumping out of bed in the morning and running after the dogs in the wood. It's all about being active when I'm really, really old.
Okay, that's amazing. Again, thank you so much for your time. Just before we log off, is there anything else you'd like to say to listeners out there, like about your coaching, about anything else, about any like kind of last minute sign off you'd like to say?
No, just if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I'm always looking at new ways to go with longevity. I'm going to bring in some new services next year. I'm going to start offer alcohol coaching for people who do want to cut down or give up. There's going to be lots of kind of new things. So follow me, see what I do, and if you're ever interested in working with me, then drop me a DM.
Definitely. So everyone, all her, I guess, links will be linked down below in the description. And again, thank you so much for your time, Sue. It's been wonderful talking with you. I learned actually quite a lot about specifically like the perspective from looking at it from a woman's perspective solely. I've been so involved with the whole kind of like everyone's the same to a degree that the nuances there matter so much. And so thank you for shedding light on that. And thank you for giving that to all of our listeners. So again, all her information is going to be down below if you want to follow her on Instagram, wherever else. I'll be speaking with her if to include any other links she wants to include. So people go down below, read the description, and we'll see you later and stay stronger every day.
Thank you. Thanks,
No
David.
problem. Bye, Sue.
Bye.